Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spanning the Need. Tonight, we'll talk with head football coach at Youngstown State University, Coach Doug Phillips, to discuss life, challenges, the expectations, and plans for the future of Youngstown State football program. Coach, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you're busy and a lot going on.
Well, when you say you want to talk life, I'm all in.
Well, and that's a fun thing to because you've been probably doing a lot of different things that you've probably never done as a coach, and then things that you have to adapt to with the pandemic, and we'll get a little bit into that. But Coach, maybe not many people know, but kind of how you got started to where you are now.
Well, I think anything, it was at a young age. I still remember going down to Youngstown State to write my sophomore paper at Springfield Local and talking to one of the coaches that, I wanted to be a coach. I had great coaches in high school, junior high, guys that were mentors to me. So, I knew at a young age that was a route I wanted to take. And, even in college, started coaching high school football. And I met Ken Knatzer, and if no one knows who Ken Knatzer, he is Jim Tressel's right-hand man for so many years. I met him at a graduation party. And, I even told Coach Tress, how I got down there is, some guys just talking to me. I don't know who he is. I'm sitting at a graduation party in New Middletown, Ohio, and he starts asking me questions. And I said, I want to be a coach. He said, well, why don't you come down and work camps when you're home in the summer? I was 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. And at the end of the I'm like, well, who are you? And he goes, my name's Ken Knatzer. I'm the assistant head coach to Jim Tressel. And and so it started with me just coming back in the summers. And then when I graduated from University of Toledo, volunteering, even turning down some teaching jobs to gain more experience in the coaching. And, it all took off. And, the resume is too long to go over, but, I'm proud to say that, I was an educator. I was a teacher. I taught in the elementary school phys ed. I was a head high school coach. I was a middle school principal, as a high school principal, as a superintendent of schools. And I also coached college football in a variety of places. And I probably took a different route than most coaches. But, they say the journey's the destination, and I wouldn't change one path because through it all, I developed great relationships. And those relationships pop up at different times of my journey. Whether it was a Luke Fickle that I met in 2006 that was one of my closest friends that hired me at Cincinnati, to Matt Campbell, who hired me at Iowa State, student taught at Salem High School back where I was the head coach, and we even coached together at Bowling Green State University. So, I've been blessed. I've been able to do different things, but the whole time I've been able to work with students and work with kids and work at that development stage. And that's the part, that really excites me. The best part's when I'm on that football field with, the sidelines. Anyone outside those sidelines at that time, I'm not thinking about. I'm thinking about those 123 kids and my 10 coaches, my 15 support staff that I have total, I'm thinking about those guys, and that's a great place to be.
Well, and you have a very diverse background from education to coaching at a variety of some top-notch colleges, and from Lou Fickle to, you just mentioned, and Matt Campbell, which are two exceptional good coaches.
Oh, great coaches. And, you learn from everyone. But, one thing I learned from Luke, and I saw Luke go through that 1 year he had at Ohio State. And, we talked, and he probably wasn't himself. So when he had the opportunity to come to Cincinnati, he said it gave him an opportunity to be who he is. And when I took this job, he said, Doug, just be who you are. Coach who you are. Don't try to be anybody you're not. Don't try to be Jim Tressel, who I learned great things from. My core fundamentals is what I learned under Coach Tressel, and even to Matt Campbell, to Luke Fickle, to even all the high school coaches that I've been fortunate enough to work with. And you got to be yourself. And I would hope my players know when I'm on the field, they kind of know that, I'm probably a little different than another coach, but I think that's a good thing. I'm going to be as genuine, and, I'm going to be who I am. And, that's what you learn through the journey.
And you bring up a great point. You worked under Coach Tressel, which is now President Tressel, as a GA in the 91 championship team, which I think, if I'm correct, that was one of the very first championships. How did that feel as a graduate assistant under that tutelage of Coach Tressel? You're a grad. You win a national title.
Well, I use this story. I used this story when I was a principal of middle school, high school, and we even, using it with my teachers about expectations. So it's 1991. I'm coming to Youngstown State, and I'm going to volunteer, and I'm going to jump in my program. And Danny O'Connell would be mad because he's the one, he hired me in marketing. And halfway through the season, I was doing marketing and football, starting this season. By the end of the season, I was doing all football. But I went into the football facility at Stanball, and I saw a sign, and it said, "Through these doors walk the best players in America." And this is 1991 now. Youngstown at the time was beaten up, with the steel mills closing. It wasn't the most great place to be. I was coming home, and I remember asking myself, who is this guy? Who's this guy having that expectation that kids that walk through this door are the best players in America? And it taught me at a young age that expectations, a teacher. I remember my first teaching job. Guess what I placed over that door? Through these doors walk the best students in America. And as a principal of a high school, through these doors walk, meaning you got to set the expectation. To be able to come in that year, to live that, and to know that it was a rocky road. We were 4-3 at one point in the season, almost out of the playoffs, going down to Georgia Southern, who didn't lose many games, and beat them on our way to win the next consecutive games all the way to the championships. That set a foundation for the rest of my life, and one that I wouldn't forget. Feels like it was just yesterday. Ron Strollo was a tight end on that team. So, you're blessed, because that set up the rest of my life. The 2.5 years I spent, 91, 92, where we lost it back in at Marshall. But those set the foundation for my life and who I was going to be as an educator and as a coach and as a person.
Well, and we actually had Ron on my podcast probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we did talk briefly about the 91 season. Yep. There's a video floating around social media that just kind of shows like a 5-minute views of different plays of that first national championship. And they announced Ron Strollo, and I mentioned it to him, and he goes, "I remember that play like it was yesterday." So those moments you cherish for the rest of your life. They are yesterday. Like I was in college 20 years ago. It felt like yesterday.
Yeah, it did. And so, like I said, you sometimes say magical. You don't know at the time when you're taking that journey. You never know at the time where you're meeting someone. So 91, that sticks out. Again, I'm sitting in my office as a high school principal at Salem High School, and the principal introduced me, says, "Hey, I want to introduce you to a guy that wants to be a coach." And all of a sudden, I'm sitting across from a young coach named Matt Campbell. And I kind of, connected him with a guy named Bob Seba, who was building the football facility at Bowling Green. Next thing you know, you never know where those relationships start. And, if you let's say you say, I don't have time to meet this young coach. I don't have enough time. You miss opportunities. If I didn't come back and volunteer at Youngstown, I missed a huge opportunity in my life. If I don't have time to meet a young coach in my office when I'm a principal, assistant principal, and a head coach, I miss an opportunity of a friend that I'm still friends with and that we are colleagues at Bowling Green at Iowa State. So, life is, it's about decisions, and it's about building those relationships.
Well, the building the relationships, maybe not many people know this, but the defensive coordinator at Iowa State is former YSU head football coach John Haycock.
Yeah. The fun thing is, that's who I GA'd for in 91, and we've stayed close. When I was at Iowa State and he was at Iowa State, his wife stayed back in Toledo. And so we were roomies for a year at Iowa State until he built his house. His daughter graduated in Toledo, and his wife finally was able to move out. So, again, special play, great people. I mean, I learned so much from Jim Haycock. I've learned so much from John Haycock. And again, I can't write a better script on just the people that you put yourself around than some of the people that I've been fortunate enough to be around.
Yeah, and I actually exchanged a couple messages from Haycock a while back ago, just catching up. I haven't seen him in years since he was at Toledo. Got any good stories of Coach Haycock? No.
I do got a lot, but he might get mad if I shared. But
yeah, I agree.
Great defensive mind, and what you like to see is guys that work hard, guys that care for kids. They care for their great family guys. And to see him now, bearing the fruit of that hard work at Iowa State and, having the best defenses in the country, I couldn't be happier for John.
Well, you get the job at the beginning of spring, and we all of a sudden are now in a pandemic. So what have been some of the challenges with your football team with this pandemic?
Well, I mean, there has been, but I can say the first team text that I sent out, and it's something that I got years ago from a guy that coached with me and named Dennis Latesse, who played for the Penguins in the early 70s. And then he was my teacher coach at Springfield Local. He coached with me at Salem when I was the head coach at Salem. And I use it anytime I've faced adversity in my life. That I told our kids, humans deal with adversity three different ways. They succumb to it. White flag. They're going to wave the white flag. I quit. Done. And you see that in life. You see teams that do it. You see people that do it. The second one is a coping mechanism. Trying to blame one another, blame something. Not accepting any response. Just put blame, and it's a coping method that helps you deal with adversity. Or the third one, and this is kind of our mantra. This is on our shirt. In fact, it'll be on the back of the shirt I wear on game day. You won't be able to see it because it's. So I made sure, all you see is the block Y. But the thing that I want our kids to learn to do is thrive. Through adversity, you learn to get back on your feet. You learn to fight through it. You learn from it. You get stronger and you get better. So our whole thing this pandemic has been, we're going to thrive from it. We're going to find a way to build better relationships with each other. We're going to find a way to we're not having spring football as an excuse to why we may be good, not good. No, we control what we can control. We're going to thrive from this, and we're going to succeed. And we're not going to make excuses of why we did, or didn't. So, that's kind of how I've gotten through. And we put a plan together, and we've executed that plan. And to go out the last 2 days and see walkthroughs, the plan has worked. Our kids actually, without going through spring ball and seeing them snap a ball in a walkthrough and be able to run plays and the communication. I mean, I told my coaches, I'm so proud of you. Because the communication I see up front, that I see with our old offense and defensive lines, that I see with our linebackers and our safeties, and I see with our quarterbacks, that's coaching. That's you guys meeting with them for the last 3 months, getting them ready for the day that we come out on the field. So it's been a great 2 days, and we got a lot of work ahead. I told our kids, we're at this, and we got to keep moving here each and every day. And, we're really focusing on the things that don't take talent, because I think we got enough talent at Youngstown State. We really do. I think Bo and the previous staff, the last couple of years recruited well. I think they had great football schemes. What we got to do is find the things that don't take talent. And what I mean by that is, we got to build a team. We got to find a brotherhood. I look back at the 91 teams and, whether it was 94 and 95, 97, all those teams, whether they won it or not, there was a brotherhood. They played for one another. They played for the guy to the right of them, to the guy to the left of them, and they weren't going to stop playing until they won. And that's what we're kind of emphasizing now as we head into camp.
And how are you able to evaluate some of these players? You've only been able to see maybe past videos of some of the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, and you've been able to recruit. How have you been able to evaluate those players over the summer?
You can look at, when we're allowed to, because there's a time during voluntary workouts, I'm not even allowed in the weight room, conditioning, or any of it. The minute that we get to the 8 hours a week and it becomes summer access, now I still can't put my hands on them to coach, but I can watch them in the weight room. I can watch them conditioning. Conditioning can have drills that I can see lateral movement. I can see footwork, that you're trying to do the best job to get a quick evaluation. You can go back to previous film and just watch their athleticism. Yeah, so that's what we've been trying to do, probably over the last month is evaluate. And, still you can't evaluate in a walkthrough. I mean, we're blocking cans or, we're just walking through, not even touching cans, we're not touching the cans. But, so all I can pay attention to, do you love the game? Do you come every day with a great effort and attitude? Do you show a competitiveness? Are you competing in the weight room? Are you competing in the meeting room? Are you competing when you go on the field? And the next thing is unit strength. Are you doing everything necessary to get your unit better that will end up making our team better? So those are the things we can evaluate. But guess what? When pads come on, we got a whole new set of evaluations that we got to do, and we got to assess it. So we got a great challenge ahead of us, but I know our coaches are game for it, and I'm excited for it.
What are some of the expectations we should see in this coming season with the YSU football team? New coach, new system, variety of expectations. What should we look for in the fall?
Here's what I want to look for here. And, I'm going to give you the talk I gave our kids today. And, we're working in pods in two different groups, offense in the morning, defense in the afternoon. But I want them to buy into what we're trying to do, how we're trying to build team, the fundamentals that we're going to try to get across. And I quiz them. I test them right there on the field. What are our 5 fundamentals? Well, we're going to take care of the football. Great. That's one of my. How about tackling? Boom. Here's our thing for tackling. How about football position? Yes. We have a thing, not through it to it. When I say not through it to it, and I'll ask them, Anthony, if I tell you not through it to it to go through a line, do you think I'm really talking to you to go through that line? Like it's important to go through. Why do you think I think it's important for you to go through that line? Because go ahead. I want to see. And you can't be wrong, Anthony. So answer.
Well, you're the one that's the coach, the expertise, and I'm learning from you as a coach. And that's what I would take from that.
And exactly. I said, guys, it's not that I want you to go through a line because I want us to be known as a third and fourth quarter team. I want us to be known as finishers. It's easy to play the game of football in the first, second quarter. It gets real tough in the third and fourth. At Cincinnati, we won 22 games in 2 years. That's hard. I don't care what anyone says as a fan. It's hard to win 22 games. And you know what it takes? It takes guys in the third and fourth quarter that love one another, that are going to fight for one another, and that know how to get over that obstacle, whether after an interception or maybe things didn't go right for you. Guess what? They're not putting their head down. They're learning to learn from it and try to thrive. So again, today, what we're stressing, gentlemen, I want to be a third and fourth quarter team. I want to be a November team. I want teams to know in November they're playing the very best football team in the country. And if we can learn to be finishers, learn to take care of the football, learn to pay attention to the details, and be coachable each and every day, I think their talent's here. I really do. When I look at our kids, I'm not going to walk on a field and look across and say, oh, gosh. Trust me, in 91, when you saw Marshall on one side of the field, you said, well, I don't know if we got guys that look like that. But guess what? What we had that Marshall didn't have? We had this. And so, and each and every day, that's what we're going to coach. That's what we're going to stress. And every day our kids are answering it, our kids are communicating. So, like I said, I'm thrilled to be here during anything. It's a pandemic. Guess what? I'm thrilled to be here, and we're not going to make excuses that we didn't have spring ball. It's a new coach. They don't know the coaches. No, we got to get ready to play football in the best FCS conference in the country. And we got to go out each and every day and prove we're worth our, greatest, our work. And you get what your works deserve.
Well, and that's great to kind of sum that up, that these are the expectations that you bring to the table and you want them to buy in. And from what you're saying, it looks like your team has bought in pretty good over the summer and really done a lot to prepare for the season.
It is, but we haven't gotten hit in the face yet. We haven't been able, we faced adversity through the pandemic or other injustices that are going on in the world that we can learn from, and we can come together a little bit. But we haven't been in a dogfight, and all we can do is talk about it. My thing is, I want to see how we respond if we go down 14. I want to see how we respond, when things are going great. It's overcoming that adversity. When I turned on the film last year, they're either in a game to win it, Northern Iowa, in the game to win it, or Southern Illinois, where it was 28-7 by halftime. So, I want to see how we respond when we get knocked to the ground, and I told our quarterbacks today in a meeting, guys, guess what? You're going to make mistakes. I'm evaluating every body, that your demeanor, how you react, how you get up after you get knocked down, how you come back the next play after an interception. And I hope you're doing the same for me, because I'm the one that's got to be the leader and show them how you do it. So again, it's a lot of things that don't take talent. I feel the talent is there. It's our job now to bring out those qualities that will bring together a great team.
Well, as we prepare for the fall, your first game is September 5th at Akron. Mm-hmm. Right now, time is to be announced. So we will have the athletic department give us an announcement of when that time will be coming up. But that also kind of pulls back to say, okay, the Horizon League, which all sports except football for YSU, has postponed the start of the fall competition to at least October 1st. Football, the Missouri Valley Football Conference is still monitoring the situation. As of just yesterday, the press release was sent out. What are your thoughts and expectations that we will have a football season? Because a lot of D3, D2 conferences have canceled their seasons, but nothing so far at the D1 level that I'm aware of as of today.
Yeah. Planning wise, I don't move a week away. If I did, I'd drive myself crazy. I can't tell you. The plans I made 2 weeks ago are so different from the plans you have now. So, planning with our football team, I'm ready for this week. I'll have a plan for next week, and because things are changing every day. When I met with our conference, I mean, they're being patient. They're holding on to what everybody else is going to do. There's a big vote with the NCAA, I think, on August 4th, that dictates is there going to be championships, and the championships don't affect the Power Five. They're their own entity, It affects volleyball, it affects the fall sports, all the NCAA, and it affects the FCS. So it'll be interesting how they vote on that. Our conference has had discussions where, right now we're playing everyone on our schedule. We've had discussions where what happens if you only play league games. We've had discussions, if there's not a season, what does it look like? So, again, those are things that can drive you crazy or you can lose sleep over. So I try to focus. My thoughts now are, how are we going to have the best Wednesday we can have tomorrow?
It's a good philosophy with what we're dealing with of unknowns, because that seems to be the big thing. Everything changes from a 24-hour standpoint, and you have to basically do what's necessary at that time.
Yeah. And, and again, we're in a pandemic. The one thing I feel great about is just how the university, starting with President Tressel, Ron Stroller, our medical, our trainers, to, Julie Gentile, who runs the health for the university, to our team doctors, to, their county health. I feel like when our kids come to our campus, we're providing as safe and as clean and as sanitized. We have yet to be in the locker room. We've been outside. Our meetings, we have yet to meet with our players except for Zoom. We've learned. I've had team meetings every night, 5:00. That's on Zoom. And we've adjusted everything. During this time, you lose a little bit of bringing those kids together, but you adjust and you do what's in the best interest of those kids and the safety and the welfare of them. But then as a coach, you got to stress, every coach I talk to in our league is, you talked about life. You got to be life coaches, because what you do when you walk away from our campus and you go back home to your dorm or to your condo, are you wearing your mask? Are you social distancing? Are you staying away from big crowds? Those things truly will have a bigger effect on our team than anything else. So, every day you just, besides football, besides trying to create a culture or fundamentals that you want to get coach, you also got to talk about those life decisions that they got to make. I had 3 kids this week. They have funerals, whether it was one of their best friends in a car accident, or it might have been their grandmother, or it might have been, coach, if I go home, hey, I want you to go home, but just know when you come back from Florida, you're going to be in a 14-day quarantine. Okay. I don't want that to be your decision. Guess what? I'm going to coach you for the next 4 years. You got to make the decision what's best for you. We've even stressed to our kids, if you're not comfortable coming back, guess what? I'm not going to be judgmental. I got to make great decisions for our team, but guess what? I'm going to take each of you individually, and I need to know what you're thinking. And if you're not here and you're thinking, gosh, I don't know if this is where I need to be, guess what? There's going to be no ramifications against you. You just got to tell me those thoughts. So it's been unique in trying to deal with that, and, trying to make good decisions, not only for your kids, but your staff. But, I still got a smile on my face every day we can step on that field and be together, though.
Well, and that's a good philosophy of just what's been going on in the world and just dealing with what you have in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and Coach Trussell told me this, the 2 biggest things I learned from, I learned a lot, but 2 things that really stick out to me is, when you come across your players, you got to talk to them like they're hurting. Not that they are, but you got to give them the time. You got to give them your attention. You got to listen. Yeah, act like they're coming in your office hurting a little bit. And I try to do that with each of our kids. And I think our kids are comfortable that they can pick up the phone, whether it's at midnight or come in the office. And the second thing is, and he uses it, you always got to know with 18 and 22-year-olds, and I stress this I just need to know what you're thinking. Don't hide it. If you're afraid of something's not going right, you got to be able to, if you can't communicate it with me, you can communicate it to your position coach. So, those are 2 things I think during this time that we've been trying to focus in with our kids. I get a text, Coach, can I come see you in the morning? And, you don't know, going in with no conditions or expectations except, I'm glad he's coming in to talk to me, so.
Yeah. And you've coached them at all levels. So between 14-year-olds to 23-year-olds. So you've seen a variety of different mentalities, adulthood and stuff like that. You can teach each other.
Yes. And what's funny too, and not to get off the subject, but, we just had 40 freshmen show up last week.
Wow.
I thought that was crazy.
40. What do you normally have on it?
Walk-ons. It could have been walk-ons, but what's crazy, through this pandemic, usually I would have been in each of their homes this winter and spring, and I wasn't. And so I told the parents, you guys are crazy. You want to talk about blind faith. You want to talk about, I got the son.
Yeah.
You want to talk about blind faith and having trust that you're dropping your son off with never meeting me. Okay, yeah, we might have talked on the phone, we might have FaceTime, but 40 of them, I guess what? They were so excited to drop their son off. During a pandemic, they're like, Coach, we're just so excited he gets to come up here. And they've been in a 14-day, we kind of transition them into our team. So we're excited to get those guys going here next week.
That's the biggest freshman class. I've been at the universities. I was at the universities since 98, working and going to get school. And that's the biggest freshman class I think I've heard of at Youngstown State football.
Well, we were able to bring 123 to camp this year, which is a first because they usually limit you to 110, and then the rest come at school start. So we told all 123, if you're going to be with us, you got to come now. And, we're not going to have any other transitions. And a lot of those kids might not be true freshmen, but they're new to our program. They might have been a transfer coming in, so it's a variety. I wouldn't say they're 40 true, but 40 newcomers that weren't part of our program.
But that's still a great number to have with the talent that you already have coming back.
Yes, and it'll be neat once we put them on. But the one thing about this, and I even told our kids, these kids haven't been through our weight room. They haven't been through so they're going to have a learning curve. And not only that, for their own safety, I don't know what they've been doing. They say they've been working out for the last 2-3 months. So we got to be very cautious in how we get them back to full, because our kids have been trained. Most of our kids have been training since June 1st, and that's with our strength coach. So, it'll be a little bit of a phase for them it'll probably take them a good month and a half, 2 months to get into full condition that we would like to see.
Have you guys been able to play on the new turf yet? Because I know they put in the new turf this summer, and I'm not sure if if it's finished yet.
It is.
Oh.
We're out there. So, we're breaking it in. There's a lot of rubber pellets, and it's hot, which is good. That afternoon group, it was hot out there, and it's going to settle. Allowing us to get up there and walk and run around a little bit allows it to, they'll walk up and then they keep coming and raking it in. So it's beautiful. It's exciting. I mean, the facilities, I didn't see the facilities in my interview. It's been a while since I never even was in the indoor until, after I took the job, so to come back and just see, I got 6 coaches living downtown Youngstown, 6. Not only that, what they've done to the campus in dorm, in condos, and fields, it's unbelievable. It's so different than what it was 30 years ago. And I attribute that to our board of trustees, president, our athletic director of having a vision and seeing where it is now. And that just makes you want to work that much harder to put a great product on the field.
The Watson Tressel Center is a sight to see.
Mm-hmm. I did. It was fun. I had Luke and his wife came and spent the weekend, a couple weekends ago, and to be able to show off, because the whole time, his wife's going, this is nice, and then to show the facilities, so I got to show off a little bit, and I was very proud of the why, I know that.
And that's good to show a coach over at Cincinnati. He actually did quote for you. It was kind of funny. He leave a quote? He's like, I'm excited for Doug in Youngstown State. He was one of my first hires at Cincinnati, and he's helped build a championship level program here, and now he's coming home to do the same. I've known Doug for a long time, and he's a great coach, recruiter, and a better person. He's going to invest in student athletes on and off the field, and he will bring his passion for football, young men, and the community to YSU.
That's nice, Again, they did a surprise for me. So, when they came to town, it was a surprise. And, it was one of the best gifts someone could have gave me. So, again, not just a colleague and someone that you helped and you assisted in building the framework we did at Cincinnati, but again, just someone that you call one of your closest friends.
Yeah, and that's great to hear. And so, and Coach, I appreciate you taking time. Are you up for a little Q&A? I have some people that have some questions about some college level stuff.
Go shoot.
So the first one looks like it's from Scott. He's like, I know the Bengals quarterback coach who played in Division III and did internships with the Jets when they had their training camp at his college. Are there key pieces to working through levels of football?
There are. It's not easy. I look at, and I'll give you one example. All right. We lost some positions, because of COVID, and positions that I said, okay, we didn't hire a 10th coach. We don't have GA positions. We don't have quality control positions. And just like Scott is asking, we have a guy that was an aeronautical engineer that graduated from Purdue, St. Ignatius, Purdue. He worked at NASA, and the last job he had was TaylorMade. And we put on the website, volunteer job. And he's working with us now, making zero money. He saved a lot, and he just said, Coach, if I'm going to work 100 hours a week, I want to work doing something I love. We have 2 GAs, Zach Bader from Poland, who played at Slippery Rock, Alex Beckman, who is Tim Beckman, who coached at Ohio State, head coach at Toledo, head coach at Illinois. They're volunteering. They want to get a foot in the door just to gain that experience. So, when you say there's internships, there are, and even those are hard. We probably had 100 people want to come for that one volunteer position. That's a non-paid to come live in Youngstown, learn football, and not make a cent. So there's ways you can do it through the NFL, and you see guys that do it through the NFL. You can do it through college, and you can do it through the high school ranks. And it helps knowing somebody. I'm going to be honest, or not even knowing, but maybe going and working their camps where they see you in action. It's hard just finding, someone that you don't even know or a friend doesn't know. So, a lot of it is, those relationship pieces. I hope I answered you, Scott.
And I think you did. And one thing that people may not realize about Youngstown State is it's a feeder for coaches. Antonio, Jim Bowman. Guys that maybe some, listeners may not recall: Mark Snyder, John Haycock, John Treadwell, Ken Knatzer, Bobby Stoops. I'm talking Silver Fox, Bobby Stoops, South High School. So, there's, the coaches that have gone, Mark Mangino, who was head. You can make a huge list of all the coaches. Yeah, that's just a great football history at Youngstown State, that a small little school in Northeast Ohio. Mm-hmm. Here's another question. This one's coming from Jamie. What is your best memory in coaching through the years?
The kids would think it's winning a championship, but man, it's the journey. It really is. I look back to the 91. Great. We won the championship. I remember what it was like when we were 4-3 and we didn't think we were a very good football team. I remember this past fall at Cincinnati, and we're coming off a bye week after losing Ohio State, beating Miami of Ohio, and we're sitting there talking. I remember sitting with Luke, and we're like, we're not a very good football. We got to get this thing going. What is up? And we end up winning 11 games in a bowl game and playing in the championship. So I know a lot of people see the end result. I'm more of that journey as the destination. So I love looking back and knowing what it took to get those accomplishments. what it took back in 2006 to go play Florida. Yeah, it wasn't a good outcome, but just remembering the training camp to the season, to the highs and lows and the games that, it could have went either way and it didn't because your kids believed in it. So I would say all those memories, I go back to the high school teams. I want to say those guys, it meant a lot, and in my first year, trust me, you go back to that first year at Springfield Local where I won 2 games, and I remember walking home from South Range because, I said, if we ever lost to them, I'm going to walk home. I remember that.
You walked home after a high school football game you lost.
Yeah. Now, they wanted to fire me after that. They did, just because. But I told our kids, we're never going to lose to them again. And, I remember that those tough years at Salem, I went 1-9. But I remember the glimmer of hope of beating a great Beaver Local team that, had a streak going. And we won 1 game, and that was the game we won. And it kind of helped us get the program going. So all those, and it's not just college, it's high school. You ask me, and there's a lot that comes to my head, and there's not one specific, but I remember the faces. I remember those kids. I remember what it took. So.
I appreciate it. That's a great answer, and just really answering Jamie's question. I think that so this is I think this will be our last question unless there's someone else that has it. Rick said, what advice would you give a parent trying to get their kid to play college level football? Oh, that's a good question.
I know there's different focuses. Football, I would tell them play everything you can. There wasn't a high school player I coached that went to play college football that just played football. Not one. They were 3-sport athletes. So I think having the kids enjoy it. If they're playing 3 sports, enjoying their high school experience. I think so much that we put so much pressure on them to be that college player that sometimes I think enjoy where you are at the time. And if you're a 2-sport athlete, if you're a 3-sport, now if you're just football, then you got to have a great, regimen. But when I'm going to recruit a football player, I want to see what their effort and attitude is. And I can't always get that in a weight room, but I can get it if I see them on the basketball court. I see them at a track meet. I see them in another sport. A lot of it is, some kids are blessed with more athleticism. I remember at Springfield, I had a great middle linebacker, but guess what? He was 5'8". He was 144 pounds. He ended up joining the Marines and going and fighting for our nation over in Iraq. But I also had a kid that was 6'5", 225 pounds that went and played at Penn State and ended up playing for the Baltimore Ravens, Isaac Smoko. So, you get a very rangy, and the little guy was a great football player. So enjoy the moment. Don't stress too much. Colleges now, we're going to find you. There's no hiding it. If you got good film, you do great academically, get out. You don't have to spend a lot of money in recruiting. You shouldn't spend any money in recruiting. If there's a football camp at Youngstown State where you can spend $35 to go get evaluated, guess what? We're going to have, hopefully there'll be people from John Carroll, Teal, Hiram, maybe Cincinnati. There'll be so many different levels of football that they'll find your son. And then there's kids that get overlooked, and guess what? Those kids probably are just hard-nosed, tough, and love the game of football. So I wouldn't stress it. I would really emphasize to just enjoy the moment with your teammates at that high school.
That's a great question and a great answer, Coach. And I appreciate it, Coach. It's always a pleasure.
It's great. I appreciate you, Anthony, and anything we can do. The one thing I firmly believe in is, as a head football coach at Youngstown State, it's about serving, and serving this valley, serving this city. And people say winning's important to get people in the stands. I agree. You got to win, but you also got to show the community you care for them too, and to be able to get out there and be able to help. And getting our players out there, that's where, I hope 4 years from now, that's what, besides winning championships, that you see that out of our program.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining me tonight. I wish you the very best this year in this coming football season. You're always welcome on my podcast to announce or just talk sports.
You got it, Anthony.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. This Thursday, we'll talk sports and what will happen with high school football. And check out any other podcasts at anthonyvspano.com. Be safe and God bless.
Go Gwins.
Go Gwins.